In 1926, in a village in Uttar Pradesh, India, a 3-year-old boy woke up and began talking about his previous life. He described a murder in specific, accurate detail. He named the victim. He named the weapon. He named a town he had never visited. When investigators took him to that town, he led them directly to a house he had never seen. And inside that house, they found exactly what he said they would find. His name was Bishen Chand Kapoor. His case was investigated by Dr. Ian Stevenson, professor of psychiatry at the University of Virginia. Dr. Stevenson spent 40 years documenting 3,000 cases like this one. Not stories, documented, verified, peer-reviewed cases. He confessed to a murder that happened 200 years before he was born. Bishen Chand Kapoor, born 1921 in Bareilly, the son of a railway employee. He began speaking about his previous life when he was 3 years old. He described it with a consistency and specificity that his parents initially dismissed, then found impossible to dismiss, and eventually reported to local authorities. His claims were specific enough to investigate, so someone investigated them. Between the ages of 3 and 5, Bishen Chand made the following specific claims: that his name in his previous life was Lakshmi Narayan, that he had lived in Pilibhit, a town roughly 20 kilometers from Bareilly, that he had been murdered, that he knew the name of his murderer, that he knew where the body had been hidden. He described these things in the first person, present tense, not as memories, as facts. In 1926, a formal investigation was organized. A British colonial officer, a local academic, a community elder. They accompanied Bishen and his father to Pilibhit. The child led the investigation. They followed him. He led them to a specific house in a specific neighborhood. He had never been to Pilibhit before. He stopped at one particular door. He turned to the investigators. He said, "This is the house." And then he knocked. The verification process confirmed 3 independent claims. The house he identified matched the description he had given before arriving in Pilibhit. The weapon he described matched the detail in a police report from 1875, a report his family had no access to, and the family he named acknowledged, in the presence of the official witness, that the incident had occurred. 3 verifications, each one independently confirmed, none of them explainable by coincidence or prior knowledge. Bishen Chand Kapoor lived to old age. He was interviewed multiple times over the course of his life. His account never changed, not in the details, not in the substance, not in the specific claims that had been verified in 1926. When asked decades later whether he still remembered his previous life, he said, "I remembered the way you remember yesterday. It simply is." Dr. Ian Stevenson was not a man anyone would describe as credulous. He was a rigorous methodologist, a skeptic by training and temperament. He spent 40 years designing ways to eliminate the explanations he did not want to use. His methodology was built specifically to answer one question: what remains when you have eliminated fraud, coaching, coincidence, and cryptomeria? Professor of psychiatry at the University of Virginia, chair of the Division of Perceptual Studies for 4 decades. His major work, Cases of the Reincarnation Type, is published by the University of Virginia Press. It is cited in peer-reviewed medical and psychiatric journals. It is not fringe science. It is institutional science that arrived at conclusions the institution was not prepared for. His methodology is the most important thing to understand about his work. Every case was documented in complete detail before any investigation began. The child's claims were recorded in writing before investigators had access to any information about the claimed previous life. This is not a soft requirement. It is the load-bearing element of the entire methodology. Without documentation before investigation, the case is worthless. With it, the case is extraordinary. The case of James Leininger, born in Lafayette, Louisiana in 1998. No prior exposure to World War II military history. At age 2, he began describing in specific detail the crash of a naval aircraft in the Pacific. He named the aircraft carrier USS Natoma Bay. He named the pilot who had died in the same area, James M. Houston, Jr. He described specific details of the crash. All of these details were verified against official United States naval records. James M. Houston, Jr., a fighter pilot killed in action near Iwo Jima on March 3, 1945. The crash, confirmed. The specific details James Leininger provided were not publicly available on the internet in 2000. His father, a Houston-based aerospace industry executive with no prior interest in this topic. Spent 3 years attempting to disprove his son's account. He could not. Bruce Leininger is an aerospace industry professional. He is not a spiritual person by inclination. He is not the kind of man who finds comfort in unexplained phenomena. He documented his investigation in a book co-authored with his wife. He writes as a skeptic who was unable to maintain his skepticism in the face of the specific evidence. The Druse community of the Golan Heights. For 3 decades, Dr. Erlendur Haraldsson of the University of Iceland conducted field research into past life case clusters here. The Druse theological framework regarding reincarnation means cases are socially expected to be reported, but the cases themselves, verified against historical records, share the same structural features as the Bishen Chand case and the Leininger case. Different cultures, different contexts, the same phenomenon. Dr. Haraldsson's cases from the Golan Heights show the same pattern that Stevenson's cases from India show. Specific verifiable claims made before investigation. Details confirmed against historical records. Alternative explanations eliminated one by one. And a residue, a remaining category cases that no standard explanation adequately addresses. The birthmark evidence. In over 200 cases in Stevenson's archive, the subject carries a birthmark or a birth defect that corresponds to a documented wound on the body of the claimed previous person. Bullet entry wounds, knife wounds, surgical incisions. The correspondence is not approximate. It is anatomically specific. Stevenson considered this the most persuasive class of evidence in his entire archive. 3 investigative threads. A North Indian village in 1926. An American suburb in 1998. A Golan Heights community over 3 decades. Different countries, different decades, different cultural frameworks. The same structural evidence. Specific verifiable claims. Confirmed details. Eliminated alternatives. Unexplained remainder. What the evidence requires, if you take it seriously, is a mechanism, not a belief. A mechanism. Dr. Stevenson's position, maintained for 40 years, was this. The evidence is not that past lives are real. The evidence is that something is happening in these children that standard explanations do not adequately account for. What that something is remains genuinely unknown. Dr. Ian Stevenson died in 2007 at the age of 88. He spent the last years of his life in Charlottesville, Virginia, reviewing cases, maintaining the archive, responding to letters from families around the world who had been told there was no explanation for what their children were saying. He had spent his career giving those families the only rigorous answer he could provide. I do not know what this is, but I have documented that it is real. Let me describe to you the structure that appears in the strongest cases across all 3 geographic clusters. A child between the ages of 2 and 5. Specific claims about a previous life. Made before investigation. Verifiable details. Confirmed against independent records. The previous person most often died young, often violently. The child knows things they should not know. Describes things they should not be able to describe. And then, usually between the ages of 5 and 8, it fades. They stop talking about it. They grow up. The previous life becomes, for most of them, simply a story they use to tell. Dr. Jim Tucker, Stevenson's successor at the University of Virginia, has continued this work since Stevenson's death. His most recent publication presents what he considers the strongest verified cases from the ongoing research programmer. The archive continues to grow. The cases continue to arrive. And somewhere at this moment, a child somewhere in the world is saying something that no child should be able to say. In Moradabad, in the village where Bishen Chand Kapoor grew up, the peepal tree he sat under as a child is still there. The village continues. The families continue. And somewhere at this moment, a child somewhere in this world is saying something that no 3-year-old should be able to say. The question is not whether to believe it. The question is what to do when you cannot explain it away. I am not asking you to believe in reincarnation. I am asking you to explain how a 3-year-old boy led trained investigators through streets he had never walked, to a house he had never visited, using a name he should not have known, describing a weapon that matched a police report his family had no access to. I genuinely cannot. Subscribe if you want to keep looking for answers to questions like this.